As the last of you are making your way to your seats, just a reminder that the restrooms for this auditorium are out the same door you came in, down the hallway to the left. So if you need that while we are here during our event today. But I would officially like to welcome you to our very third Women in Science Speak event. So give yourselves an amazing round of applause for being here today. My name is Amanda Whitener. I'm from Woman to Woman Mentoring, and I'm so honored to be a part of this event and to see all of you here. But before we kick it off, I want to do a quick roll call. I know that we have a lot of representation from our local schools. So when you hear your school, give us a shout out, a applause, let us know that you're here. So we have folks here from Urbana High School. Right, excellent. Middletown High School. Tuscarora High School, Walkersville High School, excellent, big group, I hear you, Walkersville. Frederick High School, yeah, okay. Also lots of other folks from Frederick County, so if I didn't call you, let us know that you're here. Frederick County Public Schools, well done, okay. So glad you're here. Also a lot of colleges and universities here today, so who's here from McDaniel College? Excellent. Frederick Community College, Carroll Community College, University of Maryland, Johns Hopkins, and maybe there's some folks here from Hood, maybe. Excellent. All right. Well, I'm so excited that you all are here today. As you know, this event, this Women in Science Speak event, is to celebrate the International Day of Women and Girls in Science. And also, if you follow the calendar, it's International Pizza Day. So this weekend, February 11th, is the official International Day of Women and Girls in Science, but we're all here today to celebrate that and to help uplift all women in science, to really celebrate what brings us all together here today. We've put together an amazing panel for you, really to further this equity in science, access for everyone in science, but focusing here for women today. So we're super excited to have everyone here today's event live from Hood College. So we're all excited to be here. We also have a really large group of folks who are attending virtually. So hello, virtual folks. This is an event that's being recorded. So if you forget anything that I said, if you didn't take copious notes, you'll be able to watch the video over and over and over again. Okay. So for virtual folks, a reminder, you can use the chat function while you are attending the event. There is a group of folks who are taking notes and will answer your questions as we go along. But it's important to note that for this event, this is the largest group that we've ever had for this event. So you are a part of history right here. So give yourselves another round of applause. Well done. So in celebration of this event and in celebration of International Women and Girls in Science Day, it's important to recognize that February 11th, which is the actual holiday, it's just a day, right? It symbolizes a lot. It symbolizes so many of the reasons that we are here today. And so many of the women that we've assembled here will share their amazing stories and talk about how they have pursued careers in science. They'll address some of the challenges they have faced, how they've persisted, and also how they've built their key networks throughout their career. So hopefully you'll be able to take away some useful information, some insight, and really get to know some really cool individuals. This talented group will also talk about setting and reaching their goals And stick around at the end if you'd like to chat with our panelists. They'll be around to mingle and mix with you at the end. But before I officially hand it over to the panel, I do want to recognize and thank all of the sponsors and all of the partners who worked really hard to put together today's Women in Science Speak event. So first up, Women to Women Mentoring, that's me, and my team who is here. We're really excited. Women to Women Mentoring is a Frederick County nonprofit that provides women 18 and over with guidance, support, community connections, and mentoring relationships. And recently we were named the Organization of the Year 2024 by the Frederick County Commission for Women. So congratulations to that organization. We offer women the opportunity to be heard, to take action, and grow without limits. Our second partner is the Frederick National Laboratory, which is a huge partner and a huge presence in this area. They're the only U.S. national lab that's wholly focused on research, technology, and collaboration in the biomedical sciences. The Frederick National Lab is one of 42 federally funded research and development centers, and the scientists there at the National Lab conduct so many different types of research. They're looking to create new technology. They collaborate with government officials, industry, academic partners, and really work to get their message out there, and of course, work really hard to put together amazing events like this. And then, of course, Hood College, who is our host today. They're a co-ed independent liberal arts school. They offer 32 bachelor's, 19 master's, 2 doctorate, and additional graduate certificate programs. So we're really thankful for them to be the hosts today and to offer this beautiful space. So thank you to Women to Women Mentoring, the Frederick National Laboratory, and of course, Hood College for partnering together on this event. Before I kick it to our panel the next time, I do want to introduce, it's my pleasure to introduce some of our local elected officials. We have 2 Frederick County Council members, one attending virtually, so MC Keegan Ayer joining virtually, so thank you for joining us today. And also Renee Knapp, who is also a Frederick County Council member. So if you are here, stand and be recognized. Excellent. All right, so up next, I would like to introduce Zoe Finholm, who is a senior honor student here and a communications major at Hood, who will be giving a presidential address. So thank you, Zoe, and take it away.
Hello, my name is Zoe Finholm, and I've been selected for Swap with Chap. For today, I'm the president. Swap with Chap will finish next week when President Andrea Chapdelaine attends my classes. So as president, I'd like to welcome all of you to Hood College. I'd like to also thank the 2 other organizations Hood partners with on this event, the Frederick National Laboratory for Cancer Research and Women to Women Mentoring. This is always an insightful event, as the women on this panel are true leaders in both science and technology industries, and I'm sure have excellent advice and insight for all of us this morning. Hood College is well represented today, as our moderator, Joy Beveridge, received her undergraduate degree, class of 1982 from Hood College, and Angel Boardley, class of 2025, is a biology major. To everyone in attendance, please raise your hand if you currently attend Hood. Hooray, go Blazers. If you have ever attended Hood in the past, also go Blazers. If you are a faculty or staff member at Hood, or if you have any family member or friend who is connected to Hood. Look at all those friends of Hood College. I wish all of you a happy International Day of Women in Science. Enjoy the morning, and we hope you come back to our campus for other community events, to cheer on our athletic teams, and to support our vibrant art programs. Almost every week we have an activity open to the public, so please come back often. I'm going to now turn this over to Dr. Ethan Dimitrovsky for his words of welcome.
Good morning. What a happy occasion. My name is Ethan Dimitrovsky, and I have the privilege of directing the Frederick National Laboratory for Cancer Research. I want to thank Zoe. Madam President, thank you so much. And I'm really delighted to join you, 315 strong registrants to this meeting. Give yourselves a round of applause. My small role here is to represent the mighty group of scientists, staff, and colleagues at the Frederick National Laboratory at this event that we have the honor of co-hosting. And indeed, this is our third year of co-hosting this celebration of women and girls in science. And for me, it's really meaningful to join you, the next generation of scientists. And why is that? And that is because as a father of 4 children, I have 3 daughters and 1 son. And I want my 3 daughters to have every opportunity that my son has. And as a scientist, I know that the more diverse a scientific team you have, the more productive that team is. The evidence for this is unequivocal and compelling. And that's why it's so timely and important that we come together today. On a personal note, throughout my career, I have really had the pleasure of mentoring and sponsoring women and those from the underrepresented community. And to stop for a moment, we just consider why we've come together today. Given all the problems we face in our society, why in the world would we want only half of our population finding answers? And that's why our meeting is such a timely one. Progress is being made. Where I work at the National Institutes of Health and Frederick National Laboratory, we have 2 prominent examples of that success. One is 2 women scientists assume prominent roles of leadership at the NIH. One is Dr. Monica Bertinelli, who after a successful tenure as director of the National Cancer Institute has assumed the incredibly important role as director of the National Institutes of Health. In her stead, another highly accomplished woman of science became NCI director, only the 2nd woman to lead the National Cancer Institute. Her name is Dr. Cameron Rothmel. Despite this progress, more needs to be done. And this is why our conference is consequential and timely. Today, Hood College, women-to-women mentoring in the Frederick National Laboratory provide women with this platform to tell your story, to share your story with our colleagues, the next generation of scientists. I hope their stories inspire us to do more and to do our best to foster the next generation of women in science. Today, we're in for an intellectual feast. And to get us started, I'd like to invite Amanda Whitener back on the stage to the podium to begin our session. Thank you so much and enjoy the day.
Thank you. I like that intellectual feast, right? I hope that you didn't fill up too much on muffins and fruit, that you can able to take in the rest of the intellectual feast, right? So I would now like to introduce the moderator of today's panel. They've been sitting up here so patiently and waiting to share all of the unique knowledge that they have to share with you today. I'd like to introduce the moderator of today's panel, Joy Beveridge. Before retiring last year, Joy was the operations director for the Clinical Monitoring Research Directorate at the Frederick National Lab. She's a Hood alumna and has degrees in biology and microbiology from Hood and the University of Maryland at Baltimore. Joy's passionate about fostering meaningful connections and actively contributes to woman-to-woman mentoring. Additionally, she is an active member of the Hood College Board of Associates and contributes greatly to the Hood College Frederick Health Resource Garden, which also helps her contribute back and her commitment to community engagement. So Joy, please take it away.
Great. Thank you so much, Amanda. I'm really privileged to be here. Thank you. I was telling Terri it wasn't too long ago, at least in my mind, that I was sitting right here in baby bio, the first course I ever took at Hood College. So I'm really thrilled to be here today. But before we let the panelists introduce themselves, another big shout out to the students who are celebrating this International Day of Women and Girls in Science. Again, internationally here in Frederick and beyond. So Terri, do you want to take us away?
Sure. Thank you, Joy. Hi, my name's Terri Bray, and I am currently leading a group of over about 80 very professional staff members that our role is to promote the safe and healthful workplace. We're about 3,000 people that work at Frederick National Laboratory and the NCI at Frederick. I am from Hays, Kansas, which is a small town about halfway between, all right. Small town about halfway between Kansas City and Denver, so you can imagine who I might be rooting for this weekend. And I was a student athlete at Kansas State University before, starting the journey of my life that led me here. So I'm excited to be here today, and I hope to share a few things about myself that helped shape me as a mother, a mentor, an engineer, a leader, not necessarily in that order.
Good morning. My name is Tanya Garkovic, and I am a staff scientist at the National Cancer Institute. I have a degree in chemistry and marine biology. My work now is in natural products. So we isolate small molecules from plants and marine invertebrates that can kill cancer or cure any other disease. And it seems really, really specialized for a place like the National Cancer Institute. But if you think, there's a lot of drugs that are based on natural products like aspirin, penicillin, and even Taxol. So it really does have its place at the National Cancer Institute. And to be honest, the NCI is one of the best places to do natural products in the world. And I'm really, really proud to be a part of it.
Good morning. I'm Becky Kelly. I work at Johns Hopkins Applied University. I am the Mission Systems Engineer on NASA's EZIE mission. I have degrees in aerospace engineering and space systems engineering from the University of Michigan. I've worked all across the industry on aircraft, ballistics, launch vehicles, and spacecraft. When I'm not working, I am a mom of two. I have a 2- and a 6-year-old. I'm married to my college sweetheart, and I am a cold weather dog hiking enthusiast, and I like to combine all three, and I'm an aspiring horticulturalist.
Hello, I'm Angel Boardley, and I am a senior here at Hood College. Right now, I'm studying biology, and I am in the 4+1 program, hoping to pursue biomedical sciences master's program here. I also am a part of the equestrian team here, and I love science. I've worked in many different settings. My first internship when I was 17 years old was at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, working in HIV-related neurocognitive research. And I also worked at UMBC doing protein biochemistry work. I took a brief hiatus while I was trying to get myself into school, and I also started my own business in nanning and family planning development consulting under Angel's Promise. And then after that, coming back to school, I started an internship at CamTech Inc. in a biorepository facility, learning how to run a biotech company. And I was actually named Maryland's Intern of the Month for that, that job. And over the summer, I also was working at the Department of Defense and prostate cancer research. And next week, I'll be starting at the National Cancer Institute and HIV research under Dr. Mary Kearney.
Excellent. Thank you so much, panelists. For our virtual attendees here, just a reminder that you can learn more about our panelists online, and the link is included in the chat. And as this panel discussion goes on, please pose your questions in the chat, and we'll get to those questions at the end of the first session of Q&A. So let's begin. This first question is posed to all of our panelists this morning. What early exposure, event, or person encouraged your interest in science and nurtured a mindset that says, I'm capable of this?
Well, I have about 3 folks that I'm going to mention that really helped me and shaped me when I was about your age. The first was my dad. My dad was a chemistry professor at Fort Hays State University, where I grew up. He was the ultimate nerd. But he was a very hands-on father, and he was always encouraging me in his way. Sometimes it was quite silent, but you got the message that I could do anything that I put my mind to. When I was in high school, it was my math teacher, Mr. Kisner. Mr. Kisner was the most scariest teacher I ever had, and I had him twice. My senior year, he gave me a couple of very uncharacteristic compliments that really made me believe that, hey, if this really scary teacher believes I can do this, I can do it. he brought in an engineering student to talk to our class. And he told me about an engineering summer camp at Kansas State that I went to. And that really set me on my path. And my freshman year at Kansas State, on my birthday, no less, Sandra Day O'Connor came to talk to me. And granted, there were a few thousand other people in the audience, but she was talking to me. She was the first woman on the Supreme Court. She didn't have a STEM job, but she really stood up there and spoke to all of us about how the glass ceiling is cracking. And I knew at that point that I didn't need to be deterred. Back then, I might have been the only woman in my class. And early in my career, I was often the only woman in the room, but I didn't need to be deterred about that.
Both my mom and dad are scientists, chemists actually. My mom was a chemistry teacher, and she had this amazing ability to make hard things really simple, and she did it sort of by word associations or rhymes. And chemistry is hard, right? There's a lot of equations, there's a lot of really hard concepts, and she made them so simple. And my dad is a chemical engineer, and he loved talking about his work. He does polypropylene plastics, and he would talk about it all the time. For example, did you know that in the screw caps that the Australian and New Zealand wines come in, there's 9 different layers of film in there to trap air so that the outside atmosphere doesn't get in and oxidize the wine? Yeah, for a while I used to know what they were made of, but that sort of left me. But both of them, yeah, I know, both of them had this profound influence on what I do, and they made me believe that I can do it.
So my dad is a salesman and my mom works in supply chain, and they were woefully ill prepared for a rocket scientist coming down the line. We've literally never met anybody in STEM. Like, I don't think I met an engineer till I was in college for engineering. But diligently, they would walk me to the library down the street. I think it was about 1.25 miles. Books on owls, books on space, books on literally anything that I thought of that day that I'm like, I'm interested in, because this is the infancy of the internet days. You could not Google this stuff, unfortunately. And we'd walk back, and I'd write them letters and notes, and they're like, this is great. And then we'd walk back and do it again every single day. And they would let me sneak down after bedtime and watch Star Trek Voyager, which female representation matters. I had no idea that women could not be captains of Star Trek. It just seemed like the thing to do. And by the time I got into college, I'd already got this perception that we're supposed to be here, and they never let on that there was going to be a problem until I was already mentally prepared to fight for my right to be there. And I really appreciate that from them.
So there's a lot of people who've definitely like influenced me and helped mentor me and, you know, let me know that I definitely deserve to be in science. And if I were to name every single one, we'd probably be here for quite a few hours. But there's 3 people in particular who come to my mind. First is Miss McIntosh. She was my middle school science teacher, and I was having a really hard time in middle school. I had just moved to this middle school, and before I was on an IEP program, and there was a lot of people who were telling me that, you know, because I started out having a hard time reading, writing, doing basic math, all these things, that I wasn't going to be able to join GT or AP classes. And, you know, science wasn't really the right fit for me. I needed to look at something else. And she really, really helped me foster my passion for science and really went out her way to help me get equipment and materials to do science projects and present at different places. So I really, really value her input. And then Miss Kelly, when I was in high school, I joined a 2-year biotech academy with a local community college. And she really, really helped me when I was dealing with a lot of adverse circumstances in high school. And she always encouraged me to, you know, apply, go wherever you want. You can do whatever research you want. You know, you just have to put yourself out there. And then lastly, I would say Dr. Amanda Brown, who was the first PI I worked under at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. And it was just a magical experience. You know, she really listened to me. I emailed her. I talked to her about my passions and interests. And she was so willing to mentor me and give me opportunities that she created a position for me that wasn't even available. And also what was very significant is that she is also a Black woman in science running her own laboratory. She was getting major grants, 5-year grants, 8-year grants for the research that she was doing. And it really was important for me to be able to see somebody who looked like me and who really wanted to encourage me and who really saw the spark in me. And so I'm very glad that she took the time to really embrace me in her lab and mentor me.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Our next question is, who do you follow or look up to as examples of where you want to go in your career, either in the past or currently? And this is posed to Terri and Angel.
All right, well, so I'm not going to name a name because it turns out throughout my life, I look up to the people that are around me. Sometimes it's a boss, sometimes it's a high-level leader, a lot of times it's a colleague, a peer, a lot of times it's the maintenance worker, it's a technician, it's a service worker. I look up to the people around me. When my kids were growing up, and as they started getting busy in activities, I looked up to a lot of the parents of the kids that were friends with my kids or on soccer teams or what have you. A shout out to Urbana High School where my kids went. You know, there are a lot of really good teachers, advisors at Urbana High that are just fantastic. And what I've done is I watch people, I watch what they say, I watch what they do, I try and learn from them. I try and find things that they do that I think, you know, that is something I need to learn how to do better. I tend to be drawn to people that have strengths where I have weaknesses. And I want to, you know, I've always been able to learn from them and incorporate those things into, you know, the way I carry myself. And it's really helped me grow. It's given me a lot of perspective over time. So that's been my key.
Again, there's so many people that I look up to, and you know, I think what's kind of helped me to like figure out where I want to go, like on my career path, is really being here in the Hood community. I've met so many different people from so many different backgrounds, so many teachers and community members who have really poured their time and energy into me, even when I haven't, you know, always thought that I was going to be able to make it. You know, not too long ago I was concerned about whether I was going to even graduate. And so, you know, I think those are the people that I really look up to, and all the teachers, and learning from different perspectives, and really just getting that worldview that I think is so crucial, and learning from different people's backgrounds. And so I would say those are the people who I really, really appreciate so much.
Thank you. Right, not necessarily, Terri, I love what you said, not necessarily folks in your area of expertise. Anybody can provide you that guidance. Our next question is posed to Tanya and Becky. What is something you did for yourself early in your professional journey that has helped you in your career?
When I finished my PhD, I moved halfway across the world to do my postdoc. And it was a big change. I left my family, I was on my own, but it did good to me because I had to sort of grow up. And it was a very different lab. It was at NCI, actually, that I did my first postdoc. It was a very different lab. They did things different way. And then when I got comfortable, after 2 years, I left again and I moved to Australia and I did another postdoc. And just, I've always done the same thing. For 20 years, I've done this one same thing. I'm a chemist and I isolate small molecules and I figure out what they are and what their structure is. But I've worked in many different labs and they've had very, very different sort of ways they attack science. A government lab is discovery focused. And then I moved to Australia, which was an academic lab, and that was training focused because we had students. And it really did have a huge impact on how I think about my career. And I think it did good. So basically, the point is change is good. And being uncomfortable and getting used to a new environment is really, really good in your development as a scientist.
So one odd characteristic of mine is I am extremely shy. And in late high school, early college, I could barely have a one-on-one conversation without shaking violently. I would get so nervous. And so I spent my college and my professional career putting myself into positions, leadership positions, speaker positions, design review positions where I force myself to be in front of a panel of people to carry on a conversation and build that skill set. And I would actually encourage everybody in this room, if you have those opportunities in clubs, in groups, if there's a Toastmasters group in your school, that is the best thing you can do, because the more comfortable you are with those sorts of scenarios, the better you can communicate, the more effective you are as a scientist, as an engineer, as a human being trying to get your ideas across, and it makes you better at understanding what other people are trying to communicate to you. So make yourself uncomfortable, do something that you don't necessarily want to do, and you might find a hidden talent.
Excellent, thank you. And again, a big shout out to all the high school students who are here today. So Angel and Becky, we'd like you to speak to the students in the audience who might be struggling in their studies. Why should they persist? And what obstacles may you have faced as an undergrad, and how did you learn to overcome them?
I've faced a lot of different obstacles all throughout my undergrad journey. I'm a first generational student, and so it's been tough actually being able to figure out how do I go to college? What is a semester? How much are books? When do I need to buy books? Like, just all these different things that, sometimes people just, think are like these easy things to figure out. But especially if you haven't really had that representation in your immediate home, somebody telling you, this is what you do, this is what I did, it can be, quite a challenge to be able to figure out. And, for me, I moved out of my childhood home when I was 19. And the day that I moved out, I didn't know I was moving out. I had $30 in my pocket, and I didn't know where I was going to live. And I was like really scared. And I was in school, and I had to drop out of school because of all these different circumstances. And thank God that I had started like really pushing my business forward in a whole different direction a few months prior. And so one of the clients that I had at the time, I was able to live with them. And so I lived with them for about, 4 months or so. And I, built up some savings and was able to move into my first apartment. And that was hard in itself, like trying to figure out, like, how do I become an adult? How do I live and go to school and pay for bills and pay for school bills and just endless things, and being able to work at the same time. It's very difficult. And also about a year into me moving into that apartment, my brother had passed away. And so it was just extremely difficult, and I had to keep coming and going from my my school studies. And I was so worried, because I'm like, this isn't what a scientist looks like. Like, what scientist do you know is constantly going in and out of school, taking years to just finish their undergrad degree? And I had to sit down at some point and say, well, this is what a scientist looks like. It's not always that easy. It's not always a straightforward path. And honestly, I was like really worried coming to Hood College, because I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm a non-traditional student. I don't know what I'm doing. I've been in and out of college, and then I was in the industry, and I stepped out of the industry, and I have all these people telling me like, oh, it's bad that you step out of the industry. You're not going to get back in. And what I found coming to school here is that actually having diverse and unique experiences make you a unique and an amazing person. And they really can be used to your benefit to really excel you through school. And you can see things in a different light that sometimes not everybody else is able to see. And so there's been many times where I'm like, why am I doing this? In some cases, I could be making more money just, running my business and not going to school, because going to school puts me in a state of instability, because I have to dedicate so much time to school and I can't work. But, I was like, the reason why I'm going to school is because this has been my dream for so long. And I deserve to be able to fulfill my dream. I can be my dream. And so, you know, even if it is hard for you right now in school and you don't know what you're doing, or you've come from adverse circumstances, you deserve to be able to fulfill your dreams. And just because your path doesn't look like everyone else's, that doesn't matter, because your path is unique to you. And you can add a lot of valuable insight, and you can make a lot of change in the communities that you step your feet in by having those adverse or non-traditional experiences.
For me, going through high school was a fairly smooth experience, so much so that I developed a habit where when things came naturally easy, I did not need to try. And I took that habit to my very first year in college, and ladies and gentlemen, I crashed and burned. Like, I did not know test scores could get that low. And it was a moment. It was kind of a spiritual reflection at that moment, because you're facing failure and you have to choose to go along with it, or you have to fight back. And I spent an entire year retraining myself how to study and how to work. But more importantly, the hardest part is swallowing your pride, asking for help, understanding you're not always the smartest person in the room. And what that taught me is we're here in a room full of brilliant, talented people. And brilliant, talented people do exceptionally well in benign conditions. We always will. That's just the way of it. But what you do when you fail, how you treat falling down, do you get back up? Do you fight back? That is what defines you. Be calm and be willing to do the work. Put your pride aside, and you'll be successful. If you're brilliant and talented, you'll be successful to some degree, but if you want to excel, you have to accept failure, and you have to work through failure, and don't let it fail you.
Thank you so much. Our next question is posed to Tanya and Terri. Did you know what career you wanted when you were an undergrad? And how has your career changed, morphed, or grown since you completed your undergraduate studies?
So did I know what I wanted to be? No. I knew at some point I wanted to be an engineer. I didn't know what an engineer was, but I wanted to be an engineer. And what I found out was the first couple of years of college, I saw some pretty low test scores myself. They're scary. But it's as I went through college, and especially the last couple of years, where you get into the courses that are really more about, you know, your chosen field of interest, I found a lot of things that I got interested in. They're very nerdy. We could talk about water boiling and why it boils, but that's kind of nerdy. But it's exciting to watch water boil differently when you know the science behind it. It really led me to some internships. And I got lucky after my junior year in college, and I got an internship at Argonne National Laboratory. And this was after a lot of people told me that, oh, it'll never happen. But it did happen. And I went there, and I stayed at Argonne for 22 years. And it really became the place for me, you know, at that time. And I learned so much. I moved around a lot. I took a lot of different jobs as at Argonne. I would find different things that fit me well. People came to me and asked me to do different things, to do different jobs, and it's really all these different experiences that you know, shape me, getting me towards, you know, where do I want to be. I'll tell you, you know, still there's a lot of opportunities out there. So who knows where life will take me next.
I'm not going to let you go first again to, steal my answer. I did my undergrad in marine biology, and I loved it, but English is not my first language. And when you study biology or ecology, you end up writing a lot of essays. And I found writing really hard. It's a skill, it's not hard, it's a skill you need to learn. It's logic, but coming in, we just had moved to New Zealand, and I started studying, and it was a little bit difficult. And So I started taking up chemistry classes, but chemistry was easy, right? Or at least I had that background from my parents. And in the end, my career now sort of combines both chemistry and marine biology. We have a lot of marine organisms, so I work on sponges and ascidians and sea squirts, but really the basis of it is chemistry. And that's how I got into my master's. We looked at the chemical ecology of a reef. We went onto a beach, started diving, collected a whole lot of seaweed, and then all the animals that eat the seaweed. And you could see that some of the animals that are soft-bodied, I'm talking a lot about chemistry here, but bear with me. Some of the animals that are soft-bodied eat this seaweed and then extract all the poisons in them, and the fish don't want to eat them. And sort of like, and that's really what I love about science, is that you can mix chemistry and biology and that it all comes together in the end. And so I'm sorry, I have to tie it back to the question. My career now is in chemistry. I told you, I've been doing the same thing for 20 years, and I feel like a cheat because a lot of people start one thing and then end up somewhere completely different. But it's also okay to stick to this one thing, what you do well, and do it really well.
Excellent. There's no map. Everybody creates their own map, right? Okay, this next question is for Becky and Terri. Where do you currently look to find new connections in your field?
So the easy answer for that is conferences or any sort of speaking, science, STEM events. Those are a little more restrictive. They're hard to get into. They're far away. You typically have to fly to it. I get the fun part of my job where I get to write proposals. I get to ask people for money to build various things. So I have a whole lot of fun cold calling people. I will literally cold call like any company that has a website if they've got a product I like. Typically we don't use them, but you end up making friends and they cold call you and you just like build this network of all over the place. So a lot of these places, especially in engineering, you do like one of their online inquiries, and even if you don't have an answer, they don't have the answer for you, you tend to keep the contact, and it builds and it builds and it builds. You become LinkedIn friends, and their LinkedIn friends find you, you find them, and it's just kind of like a nice ecosystem solely because somebody was trying to buy like, I don't know, an EPS system or some solar arrays. Like it just happens that way. So it's very organic in engineering in that respect because we don't go to half as many conferences as scientists, unfortunately.
So what she said, for me, over the years, it definitely has been the conferences and the meetings, but it's people I work with. And it's especially people I get to know that I don't work with. They may be at the same company as I am, but they do something very different. And as I moved around in my career, when I first started my career, I had people that encouraged me. Actually, Argonne paid for 2 graduate degrees for me. They sent me off to the University of Wisconsin for my master's degree. And a little bit later, I ended up at DePaul getting an MBA in operations management. And it's all those moves that you're making, you're finding connections along the way. It's just even a normal day, walking down the hall, you talk to somebody. And, as Becky mentioned, it's the connections to the connections. Maybe you don't have the connection you want, but you know somebody that might have the connection. And so it's reaching out to them, and people are willing to help you find those connections. And it's just a way for your network to grow. Whether it's in school, in your job, when you get in a job and you get lucky enough to take advantage of professional development, which I've been very fortunate to be able to do over the years, it's just being there and finding those connections and being open to them and realize what they are.
And it's never too early to start documenting your network. Does anybody know, any of our students know what a Rolodesk was? I still have my Rolodesk. I really do. But yes, never too early to write it down. It's really easy. You don't need paper anymore. So you're good to go. Did you want to add something, Angel?
To add, because I just wanted to make sure that, the students in here know whether you're in high school or college, you also have a lot of opportunities in your hands at these schools and at different community events to be able to get your name out there and to be able to connect with people in science. One organization that I really like that helps with like the bioscience, life sciences industry is BioBuzz, and they have a LinkedIn. I believe they might have a Facebook, but they're really active in the community. And I always look at their calendar and see like what events they have and networking events. And I go to those and I meet a lot of people at those different events. And a lot of the scientists that I know now are from events like that. And also the school having their career days and career fairs and, you know, really just putting yourself out there and meeting new people. And when it comes to different opportunities or what some of these people that I meet at these different opportunities, what they suggest, like, hey, I think you would fit here. A lot of times what I say is like, I think about it, I'm like, well, I might have not done research there in that type of field, or I'm not sure, but I always end up saying, well, it can't hurt, right? So like, if it can't hurt, why not just at least apply? Why not try? Why not make that connection and just see where it takes you? Because a lot of the times, some of the connections or the opportunities that you might have not really ever looked at or considered might end up leading you down a path that can lead up to your career, or, you know, making some of the best, you know, friendships and networks that you've ever had. So I just want to encourage all the students in here to really put yourself out there. It does not matter. There are so many times where I'm the youngest person in the room, or I might be the only person of color in the room, or I might be the only queer person in the room, and that doesn't matter. You can still put your name out there and, you know, really do some great things for yourself.
Excellent, thank you. Our next question is posed to Angel and Tanya. In your view, what is one way that the scientific community can be more inclusive?
You know, that's such a like big question. And I think that there's so many ways that we can be more inclusive. But I think, you know, I was looking at a statistic yesterday where it said in 2018, I believe this was from the National Science Foundation, they had posted, but in 2018, only 7% of Black students obtained a STEM degree out of all the STEM degrees that were obtained. And I just found that like really daunting, because I'm like 7%, you know, like that's a really small number. Like, and I'm like, what is the different factors that are holding, you know, people of color, whether they're Black or Hispanic or Asian, from getting into these spaces? And, you know, I think especially when we have this current climate where we're talking about DEI and trying to be inclusive, you know, there's so many different ways that you can be inclusive, but I think what we have to remember is like, you can't necessarily just put a Black person in a space and say, here you go, but then you have policies that say you can't have your hair like that or you gotta go. You know, like you have to really be able to willing to learn and understand from different people's perspectives. How do they come to the table? What are their cultures and practices? Understanding that not everyone has the same opportunity. Even if you give everyone the same resource, they still might not be coming to the table with the same privileges as you. So making sure that we're talking about equity and not just being always equal, because equal doesn't always end up putting everyone at the table at the end of the day. And, you know, one thing I think sometimes we have to realize is that there's choices and then there's life circumstances. And I'll just give you an example. Like for me, being able to go to school has all been on my shoulders. I did not have like families and a family or friends or anybody helping me to pay for school. I've never had the option to go to school and not work. It's just never been an option for me. And I remember one time semesters ago, I talked to a professor about how I was struggling in the class with having to deal with work, and you know, there's a little bit of housing insecurity going on at the time, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to really pass this class. And he was just like, well, you just need to stop working and ask your parents to pay for it. And I said, oh, well, that doesn't kind of work that way. And you know, I don't think anything bad about this professor or anything, but that just really showed me that a lot of people don't understand the different circumstances that a lot of students come from. And I think, you know, we're so set on this idea of the traditional student, and more and more people are coming in from diverse backgrounds. We no longer really have the traditional student. I don't think so. I mean, in some cases you do, but I think less and less that's becoming a thing, especially with the pandemic and how it set people back economically and different things. More and more families cannot send their children to school. And so children who want to go to school, they have to figure out other ways. So, you know, just making sure that we're being aware of these things. We're really trying to take the time and energy to learn and be persistent and really bring everyone to the table, considering those circumstances and making rules and policies that help other students who might not have that traditional experience be able to excel. I think that's one of the major ways that we can make sure that we're actually getting diverse perspectives and diverse students and you know, diverse professionals into the realm of STEM.
That's really good. I'm glad you went broad because I want to go narrow. I want to answer with what are the things that I can do better? And I think I can interview better. It takes milliseconds or seconds to make a first impression, right? So you make that first impression, and then, want it or not, you create all kinds of biases. And that might influence the kinds of questions you ask your applicants. So what I do is I have a set number of questions, and I'm always going to ask the same questions for all of my applicants. Also, I try to be very careful of what kind of questions I ask. What is an expert? You know, are you an expert in this field? And depending on what kind of cultural background you come from, people might be too shy to think they're an expert. So asking better questions also matters. So I think if I try and give everybody a fairer chance, then that's the way to creating more diverse environments in science.
Excellent. Thank you. Our next question is to Becky and Terri. What is one piece of advice that you have received that has had an impact on your career path or choices?
Sorry, my mic died. The kindest advice I've ever received was about 5 years ago. I was working at a different company, and we were a small knit group. So there was about 9 of us. We were very close. We ate lunch together. We hung out after work. We were very, very good friends. And I got a better offer. And it weighed on me extremely heavily. It was in every way better for me. And I was still wondering if I should take it because of the level of disappointment that I would owe to the team that I was working with. And my manager at the time pulled me into my office, closed the door. And despite he wanted me to stay, the advice he gave me is nobody is going to advocate for you as well as you. Do not apologize for seeking anything that makes your life, your profession better. You don't owe other people your comfort, your professional advancement. You are your best advocate, and you need to do what's right for you. Even if you feel bad, your team, your former job, your colleagues, they will recover, and you are free. The guilt is gone. You are free to pursue what's best for you. And that was life-changing because I'm an eternal people pleaser, and like being released from that and remembering that only I can speak for myself and really have my best interests in mind has really helped me move forward in my career since that point.
I think that's a very powerful message, and I really appreciate that. When I was an intern long ago, one of my first mentors, his name was Larry Nymark, he had this cartoon on the wall, and I'll tell you right now, I don't remember what the cartoon was, but there was a phrase in the cartoon that was called the cross-fertilization of ideas. And I had to stare at it for a while, and I talked to him about it. And what I learned about that phrase really is that it is critically important to seek out alternative ideas. It's critically important to, learn from others, listen to them, try and figure out where they're coming from. Because what will happen is these ideas tend to give you more ideas. And in the scientific world, it's these ideas. You may be listening to something that is completely not connected to what you're working on, but it gives you an idea and it can lead to scientific discovery. In your personal life and in your professional life, it can lead to growth. So I find that to be very interesting and very important. But I'm going to tack on one more idea. I also, sometimes I don't conform. It said one thing, I'm going to give you two. This is my piece of advice, and this is something that I've learned over the years. And it builds on something Becky said earlier about failures and mistakes. Get ready for failures and mistakes. You're going to make them. It's a good thing. I will sit here and tell you I have made multi-million-dollar mistakes. They are scary. But what my advice to you is to be the first person to raise your hand when you need to say that you made the mistake. And also be the first person to show folks that you have some ideas on what it might take to undo that mistake. You're going to gain a lot of professionalism by doing that. You're going to gain a lot of credibility by doing that. And the reality of it is I think if I look back on my career, where have I learned the most? It is from those mistakes. So that's my advice to you.
Great, thank you, very important. And as you mentioned a mentor, this question is posed to Tanya and Angel. In what ways are you a different person today because of a mentor in your life? And perhaps you could also speak to any mentoring that you are also doing.
I would not be where I am today if I didn't have mentors and people who really looked out for me and who provided their time, energy, and attention. I think one person who really has changed my life and my perspective on life and where I can go is Dr. Mary Kearney, who I'll be working with next week at the National Cancer Institute. And actually how me and Dr. Kearney met was through Women to Women mentoring, and she was my mentor last year. And even though she isn't my mentor this year, we've still kept in contact. And what was so amazing about being paired with her is that she came from a non-traditional background. She was putting herself through school while she also had a child and trying to, work and balance everything. And, there was a lot of people who didn't necessarily think that she was going to go anywhere. And she definitely went a lot of places. She ended up, doing the same path as me, biology undergrad, biomedical sciences master's program. And she did that here at Hood. And she has her own lab, and she's also doing a lot of work where she's intentionally seeking out scientists who are coming from non-traditional experiences and backgrounds and who've had diverse experiences and adverse experiences. And I feel that's very honorable and, really encouraging people to know that no matter where you come from, you too have a seat at the table. And, despite her having a child in college and trying to put herself through school and doing that on her own, she's now the new deputy director of the National Cancer Institute. And so I think that really just showed me wow, I can really go anywhere. And to have her recognize me and see what I'm doing and really appreciate what I'm doing and to keep encouraging me to keep going. I mean, that's just an amazing experience, and I will always be grateful. And I know that experience carries me through school now and through my the early stages of my career and will carry me on for the rest of my life.
Okay, for the record, it's not easy being the second person, right? The panelists kill it, and then I have to think on my feet, what am I going to say? I think there's two different mentors or that you can have, an authority or an influence. And think when you leave that mentor, an authority you'll probably won't be in touch with after you leave, but an influence you'll be in touch with for the rest of your life. And so I'll give you an example of a mentor I had that had a profound influence on what I did. It was my second postdoc, and I was at a part of my career where where you can really grow as a scientist. You've got a lot of experience, and then you have to figure out what is it that you want to do, and you think you've got sort of the knowledge and the power to do it. And he was at a point in his life where he was just about to retire. And so we had this first meeting of what are we going to do, and he had this piece of paper, and he drew 2 little squares with arrows on them, and he said, Tanya, I want to see the invisible. And I was like, okay, you want to see the invisible. And that was it. That was sort of, that was the idea. Go and take it. And we would have meetings, and he would come with these ideas, and I would say, Ron, it can't be done. And he would say, why not? And I would say, because nobody else is doing it. And he would say, so what? And so he really, really made me, I don't think there is such a thing as thinking outside the box, but he really, really made me think hard. And it really did have a profound influence of what I do. And then when I came back here to NCI, I told you we have this big library, and the idea was to make a library of 1 million fractions that's screening friendly, that we're going to send to screening centers around the world, so that we can reinvigorate natural products and hopefully get more drugs into the pipeline. And again, million fractions is a big number, and I was supposed to be afraid of it, but I wasn't, because I knew that, you think hard, you work well with your team, and you're going to do it. And I'm really proud to say that after 6 years of work, we're not quite there, but we've made a library of 600,000 fractions, and we have this amazing lab at Fort Detrick. And if anybody's visiting Fort Detrick, get in touch with me. I'd love to give you a tour. And I think I'm able to do it because I've had the help and support of amazing mentors in my life.
Excellent, thank you. Now, Becky, you started a discussion a little bit about advocating for yourself. So here's a question for Angel, Becky, and actually the whole panel, if you like. Describe a time when you advocated for yourself that had an impact on your career or your life path.
I think, my educational experience has been quite complex. And, I think sometimes when I say that, people assume that started in college, and that did not. It started in elementary school. And, I started out in private school, and I didn't necessarily have all the resources that I needed to be able to help me to excel. So I ended up transferring to public school, and I was in an IEP program, and I was significantly behind all the other students in reading, writing, and math. And I had a lot of, I had to deal with a lot of bullying from other students, which was hard. And then I also had teachers who were telling me, like, you're never going to make it, I don't know what to do for you. And it was just really hard. And then I didn't always necessarily have all the support that I needed at home. And trying to manage that as, a little 8, 10, 11, 12-year-old, it was a lot. And I had one teacher who, she just fought me on everything. And I remember, like, one time she said, Angel, I want you to hold out your hand. And so I'm like, okay, I hold out my hand. And she was like, that's what you're going to do for the rest of your life. You're going to be handing out burgers at McDonald's. And I was like, what in the world? It was just so, like, I was like, is this real? I'm an elementary student, and you're a teacher, and you're telling me this. And it was so bad all the time. And so, I was like, in my head, it hurt my feelings a little bit. But then I was like, you know what? I'm going to prove you wrong. I am not going to let you define who I am. And so I advocated for myself, and I gave them hell. I gave them absolute hell. You don't want me to read and write? I'm going to show you I'm going to read and write. And I started, I really, really practiced every single day, on and on again, trying to read anything that I could read. Can I read a stop sign? Can I read this? Can I read that? And eventually I did so well that I started, getting, I think it was like advanced on all my MSA scores after that. And I remember before, because I was in this IEP program, they told me, like, you have to have someone write for you and read for you and do all these different things. And eventually I got myself to the point where no one had to read or write for me. I was able to do everything on my own. And had I just taken what someone told me and internalized their perspective of me and where I can go, and I didn't advocate for myself, I would have never got myself out of that position. And I wouldn't have been able to eventually go on to AP and GT classes and even graduate high school. And so I'm so glad that, you know, even from the very, very beginning, I decided very young to really advocate for myself. And so it doesn't always have to start when you're older. It can start really young, and just remembering those younger versions of yourself and really honoring your inner child and understanding that from a young age, you carried yourself to the point that you are today. And you still have that strength within you to be able to carry yourself on in the future. And so always, always, always advocate for yourself, because no one else is going to advocate for you and get you into the places like you can for yourself.
To build on that, and this is more of the little things really matter, particularly for women, because we are conditioned from a young age to be kind of silent sufferers and to just accept our surroundings or whatever we are given. Learning to say no. I don't want to do that. I'm too busy. That's not what I'm paid for. Dozens of little opportunities, or where somebody says, can you do this thing? No. Or I don't like what I'm working on. I would like a new task. And to be able to just communicate that this is not your intended path, or that you don't want to be doing this, is very powerful, because you then find yourself with a portfolio that is fulfilling to you. And when it's fulfilling, you do a better job. If you just accept every task because my manager told me to do it, or my professor told me to do it, or my boss told me to do it, you're going to look back and you're going to be disappointed. And so every opportunity, you weigh the conditions. You say, do I want to do this? Does this build on my career? Does this make me better? Do I learn something from this? Or am I bored? Am I overworked? Learn to say no. No is your biggest advocacy. Like that is what you can do most in your life, is accept that you are allowed to say no. No is a single one-word sentence. You don't actually have to give an explanation. Always know that you have the power to say no. Even if it's your career, you can walk away if something is particularly, you just don't like it. You are allowed to.
There's a lot of professional meetings that I am the only woman in the room. And it used to bother me, but it doesn't anymore. It's sort of, you know, the point is believe in yourself. It doesn't bother me anymore, because, and I might be marginalized, but at one point I'm going to get a chance to speak, and I know what I'm doing. And so, you know, you can do it. Even if you're the only woman in the room, at one point somebody's going to ask you a question of what you do, and you know what you do. And so it's not a problem. It's a challenge.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We have about 10 minutes left. We have 2 more questions. So this question is posed to Terri and Tanya. How can we be more imaginative when it comes to encouraging women to excel in their chosen field, and at the same time balance family responsibilities outside of work? Thought you didn't like going second.
Yeah, I find this to be a hard one as well, but here's you know, my attempt at this. You know, when I look back in my career, and I look back, especially in the time when I had kids, whether they were young, and unfortunately even through now they're both in college. You know, it takes time, and you have to balance a family. You know, my mother lives with me, and I have to juggle that. I look back at a time where I had this job. Both my kids were, before they were in school, they were in daycare. And I was working on this incredibly challenging, I'll call it dumpster fire, at work. And I got called twice within a short period of time. I got called into, if you will, the principal's office. Not because I was doing something wrong, but because there was something that needed to be discussed. One of them was a very senior manager, and the other was a lab director. But both of these folks worked in areas where, you know, they worked in an office that the minute you cross the threshold, it gets very quiet. And you feel like you need to have formal wear to go in there and be on your best behavior. Both times I had a kid issue. One time my son was sick. And the other time, my daughter had stuck something in her ear in daycare. I had just picked her up and we were on our way to urgent care to fish it out. So what do? Right? When that senior leader calls you and they need you, you need to be there. I was honest. I just said, hey, I've got a childcare issue, but they were incredibly flexible, and this is important. And I also was often the only woman in the room, so it made you a little bit nervous to say, I'm the one that has a childcare issue. Both of them said, oh, that's okay, bring your kid. And so I did. And, both times I had colleagues that took my kids and entertained them. And both times, those very high level managers came out, talked to my kids, and they let me know that they appreciated me. They appreciated the fact that I had a lot to juggle. They knew that it was important to juggle these things well. And they had understanding. They were flexible. So that's the word I want to focus on. They were flexible. I feel like I've always had flex time. That is a thing that my friends in HR talk about now, but I've never had it formally or officially really, but I've always had the flexibility. And I had people trust in me that I could get the job done while juggling the things I needed to juggle at the time. So I think that we can all be very humanistic, and I think that we can be understanding of what people are going through and learn to trust, not worry about somebody punching a time card or a clock, if you will, and just be, thoughtful and humanistic and understanding, and that can help.
Awesome, thank you. What Terri said is right. I think we need to normalize that, right? Women, it's not fair, but when the children are young, women do most of the care, right? Because a sick child will go see a mom for comfort. And that's okay, and it's normal. And I find that it's getting better, that more and more people at work understand that I can't make this meeting because my kid is sick. I also think what helps is that it's becoming more and more acceptable for me to be vulnerable. And it's hard to explain that, but I was thinking of an example. Back in 2020, I was a lab manager, and I was responsible for a lot of people. And it was the last in-person meeting we had. We didn't know what was happening because something new was coming up, and there was a lot of uncertainty. And we called the whole group together. And I didn't know what to say because I didn't know what was going to happen. And I decided I'm going to admit a vulnerability. I said, I know everybody's stressed. I'm stressed too. And then I told them that the day before, I spent half the day washing dishes in the lab, and that it really, really helped me because it sort of took my mind off things. And as I was doing that, I guess I was ashamed of myself, so I started looking down. And so when I finished my sad story of washing dishes in the lab, I looked up, and people's faces changed. Before I looked, everybody was concerned. And then I looked up, and I sort of showed everybody that I'm vulnerable and that it's okay to worry, that not every day is going to be great. And people looked a little bit more confident that we're going to be okay and that it is what it is and we're just going to tackle it and figure out a way to do it. And yes, I think the environment is getting better and more acceptable of working mothers, but I also think it's becoming more and more okay for working mothers to say, I'm not okay, I need help. I need some time off because my kid is sick or my parents are sick, and it's getting better and better because people that we work with are becoming more acceptable of it.
Can I do one small? I've got two tiny children, and what would be the most important is to denormalize that women are the default parents. Schools should willingly accept that dads can be called first when their mom is in a closed area. And people should understand that dads need leave too, and that you should let women do their job and not tell them every time something's happening with the kid, and that the other parent is there, if it's a dad, a mom, or any number of parents. But women are not necessarily the default, and we need to stop being treated like that is our number one function when many of us have what we are referring to as partners.
Thank you. Hip, hip, hooray. Okay, our last question before we start taking questions from our virtual and in audience. Was there ever a time you felt you didn't belong in a lab or your current job? And if so, what made you ultimately recognize that you did in fact belong there?
I work in a lab. Half of my time I work in a lab. And I'll tell you that all the time. I feel like I don't belong there, right? Experiments don't always work. Most experiments don't work. And sometimes they don't work for months. And, you know, it kills your confidence. I don't belong here. Maybe I should leave it for some younger people that know better. But no, you don't. You can do it, you know, because we're trained as scientists. I have enough knowledge, and also I'm surrounded by incredible colleagues. So I don't have to do it alone. And that's what I learned. I can lean on many other colleagues that that have different skills. And then all of our skills together can make it happen. So to answer the question, I have these doubts all the time, but that's okay because science is hard and it's challenging and you've got to solve problems and you're not in it alone. You're there with many other people in the lab and rely on them because they can help.
Terrific answer. And I will tell everyone here that Tanya can do anything. Top-notch scientist, someone I look up to. Just fantastic. I too, you know, all sorts of times where you feel like you don't belong, and I've had those feelings many times over the years. And I would say early in my career, they were probably scarier when I was an intern or as I said earlier in my career. But I always had encouragement, and I had people telling me, you know, giving me reasons and giving me evidence that they felt I belong. Some of that evidence was, like I said earlier, my former employer at Argonne National Laboratory, they sent me to graduate school twice. They paid a lot of money and invested in me. That was a sign, you know, that I belonged and I needed to be there. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of a funny story. At least I hope it's funny to some of you. I remember sitting in a meeting one day. We had a very challenging problem. It was an engineering problem. We had experiments that weren't working, and we were trying to figure out how to solve this issue. And, you know, I'm in a room with a bunch of men, and we're all thinking about solutions. And I don't know why, but out of the blue, I said, well, if we could use some fingernail polish, I think it would solve our issue. And you could have heard a pin drop in the room. And they're thinking, what does fingernail polish have to do with the nuclear materials research we were trying to do? And, you know, really, it wasn't that the fingernail polish was really the solution. But what it was a point in time in that meeting where all of a sudden the direction of the conversation changed. It broke up a thought pattern and turned that conversation into a new direction, and we found a solution. And it was at the end of that meeting, several folks that were in that meeting said, you know, you threw us for a loop. Who would have ever thought of fingernail polish? But, you know, thank you, because you got us to think differently, and thinking differently is what helped us solve the problem.
Great, outstanding. Okay, so now we're going to turn our questions to our attendees. In-person attendees, there's 2 microphones here up front. You can come and pose your question to the panel. For our virtual participants, please put your question, as we directed earlier, in the chat, and one of our fine folks here will read your question. And as a reminder, as you pose your question, if it's to a specific panelist, feel free to note that, or you can ask away and we'll have volunteers. Oh, time for a potty break too, if anybody would like to do that.
Oh, so this is our first question from the chat, and it says, what are some strategies for engaging high school students and undergrad students in science and medical research careers and opportunities? Specifically, how can we work with for-profit and nonprofit organizations in offering mentorships and internships for students? Currently, it's very difficult to obtain an internship as a high school student or freshman or sophomore undergrad without prior experience.
So you're right. I think sometimes it can be pretty difficult. And, you know, I had a unique experience where I did this 2-year biotech academy when I was in high school. And, you know, I grew up in Columbia. You know, that's a higher income area that was able to support those types of passions. They also supported lots of other types of career paths as well. And so I understand that not everyone has that experience. And so it can be kind of hard and it can be kind of daunting because you have so many options out there. And it's like, how do I start to break myself in? And like I said before, there are so many opportunities that sometimes I think we don't even realize that those are opportunities that exist as young people. And so, like I said, I think I would definitely encourage going to networking meetings, even if you're the youngest person in the room, even if you're in high school and everyone there has worked in their career field for 20 years, it doesn't matter. You know, a lot of times when I'm the youngest person, they're like, wow, how'd you find out about this? I'm so glad that you're eager to learn and hear from us. And hey, maybe there's a job opportunity for you, even if you haven't even worked in this field. And that's how you start getting in, you know, really just putting yourself out there. Also joining organizations like Women to Women Mentoring, where they can mentor you and help you understand where are your talents, like where can they best be relayed in this type of work. So that's what I would definitely suggest.
I want to add one little thing is remember that little things count. You know, you can claim success by going to a science fair, doing that multiple times, not only as an undergraduate student, but also as a high school student. And I think even in middle school, you can start early. Those little things, working on teams for different kinds of competitions or what have you, they count. Put them on your resume. And you start little and you can build up and then really get to where you want to be.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Zara Shamir. I'm a freshman at Urbana High School. Before I ask my question, I just want to say that the panel was very insightful, and it really made me think of like my place in science, and like I really look up to you guys. And so my question was, do you ever feel stuck in like the field of work that you do, and like how do you get over it like in the field that you pursue?
Right? No, because science changes all the time. You know, what I do changes all the time. There's different problems and you work on them. And I think that's one of the nice things about being in science is that it keeps changing. You know, I said change is good. You keep learning new things. And in fact, there's this motto, learn, unlearn, relearn. And it really is true. You know, problems or challenges keep on coming and you keep taking them. And that's one of the things I really, really like about science.
Engineering's rather similar, where you can get bored with the specific tasks you're doing, but you just turn a little to the right or a little to the left and go down a slightly different path, and it's a completely different experience and just the skills you can build from that and the opportunities available to you.
Thank you so much.
So this is a question from the chat directed to any of you. Can you please elaborate about your style of communication and any lessons that illustrated that you needed to change your style, whether that's verbal or nonverbal?
Oh, I think I want to answer this because my boss is sitting in the audience. I'll tell you what, communication is the toughest thing you will face. It's not the science, it's communication. And I strongly encourage people to, you know, spend the time on learning how to write, learning how to get those presentation skills. The Toastmasters was an awesome recommendation. The hardest part as you need to make your point is to make your point concisely. And remember that, and this has changed over the years, I hate to say it, people don't read anymore. So you really need to make your point concise. And if you can put things in a bullet format, you know, just lay them out. You need to spend the time on it. I will tell you, everything I write my first draft is way too long. And I have to go back and remember my English teacher's lessons about conciseness. And if you can do that, I think that you'll do very well.
Also, know your audience.
Hi, my name is Gwen Blaney, and I'm from Urbana High School. I'm a junior, and I have two questions. I hope that's okay. This first question is directed to Notorious Angel. And when you were dealing with a lot on your plate all at once, what gave you the strength to continue and not to give up?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, there's so many times where I was like, yeah, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I just, I get frustrated because I'm like, I want to do so well. I have all these desires, and it's just like, why do things keep hitting me from all these different angles? But what I would say is, again, I kind of just think about, especially my younger self, my inner child, and thinking about what were her dreams, what were her aspirations, what did she want to do? And she wanted to do a lot of things. I wanted to be like an equestrian trainer, I wanted to be an actor, I wanted to be all these different things. But also at some point I realized, like, I really want to be in science. I really want to be in the world of medicine. And so, I think like it would be a disservice to me now and a disservice to her to give up on that dream. And like I keep saying, it's like, you deserve to fulfill all your dreams and passions. And one thing I really get irritated about sometimes is when I hear people giving advice to young adults or older people, and they're like, well, you're too old, you can't do that. Or, they kind of like start saying like dreams don't matter. It's like, it's weird because when I was in elementary school, everyone said you could be the president of the United States. Now that's a weird concept. But no, it's not. You can still do whatever you want to do. And so I just always encourage, like, keep going no matter what someone says. If that is your dream, you can do it.
And for my second question, it's how do you handle sexism as well as discrimination in the workforce?
I'll keep my answer brief. Be yourself unapologetically. There's going to be pressure to conform. There's going to be pressure to act like a certain set of people that are currently in power, dress a certain way, talk a certain way. Do not force yourself to be something that you are not. Do not apologize for other people's discomfort. It is theirs to own, and it is not your problem. And it's hard, but you are you, and that is your most comfortable person to be, and you will do your best if you embrace that. There is nothing wrong with you as a person. Anything that they have a problem with is their problem.
Thank you so much for your time.
Another question from the chat. How do you deal with toxic alphas, male or female, that cut women's space in science?
There's always going to be someone who says like, you can't do this, or they like feel like because they're male or they come from a certain background that they're better than you. And like I said, you having diverse experiences, you being a woman in science, you being a person of color in science, you being a queer person of science, that brings a lot of unique and useful experiences to the table. And so no matter what, like no matter someone trying to, shortcut you or do whatever, like you just keep doing what you need to do. You keep following your passions. You keep following through with what your task is at hand. And eventually those people are going to fall behind and go somewhere else. But then also the other thing is that because I've dealt with some toxic work experiences, and if you feel like this is too much, this person is always doing something, multiple people are doing something, this company is not aligning with who I am and my values, you have every right to leave. And when you leave, that does not mean that you don't have other opportunities out there. So you have to do what's best for you, and not every place of work is the best, and that's okay.
Thank you.
I'm Lillian Sun from Urbana High School, and this question is sort of convoluted. I think a lot of people have troubles deciding what they want to do because there's the issue of trying to find something you're passionate about, but then there's also the issues of trying to find something that will actually make you a living, that you will actually survive off of. And then there's also, how do you find a job that won't make you hate what you love? If that's, I can ask that of what you guys.
Trial and error. You try. Like, I changed a lot of labs. You try, you see if you're a good fit, and if you're not, you move on. you know, and what Becky said, moving on is not a problem. You know, you look after yourself first, and then eventually you'll find your expectations will lower, maybe, or you'll find that something that's the right fit for you. But just keep trying until you get there. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with trying many labs before you find your niche.
And you may have a passion now, or you may not, but that's why going to school or doing those multiple jobs to have that experience and exposure to many things. And what you're passionate today may not be what you're passionate 5 years ago. We have lots of passions, but again, it's the networking, it's the exposure, talking to people, and really, you know, taking advantage of everything that's there for you to explore.
And if you're unsure, pick something that has a wide foundation. Like, for perspective, the Nerf water gun was invented by an aerospace engineer. So explain that career path, but something that has that you're interested in with a wide base, and you can touch on dozens of industries if you find you don't like the direct path you've chosen.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Raja Allen. I'm a student at Oakdale High School, and I'm very young for my grade. I'm actually only 16. I just turned 16. And my question to you guys is, as a young person, has your age ever conflicted with what you were trying to achieve, and how did you overcome that?
Yes. I think Tanya, you said it earlier, or maybe Becky, it was you that was youngest in the room. And when I got started out of college in my early career, I had a double whammy in that, well, maybe I was often the only woman in the room, but I was also, there was a very big gap in my particular field between people coming out of college and people that were the age of my parents. There was almost no one in the middle. And so you kind of got to this point, you know, everybody had kids, right? And so now all of a sudden I'm trying to be a professional, but I'm also their kid. And it's a tough position to be in. But what I've learned is, really, your youth brings in new ideas, and that is a strength, and that is something that you have that no one can take away from you. And don't be afraid to bring those ideas up. Don't be afraid to bring in these new things. I think back to my fingernail polish example. Sometimes it's those new ideas that you can bring in that are going to turn something, you know, on its head and into a great new direction.
I just want to add, like I said before, you know, there's often times where I've been the youngest person in the room, and really that's been seen as an advantage. And I haven't really had too many experiences where somebody was not willing to work with me because I'm the youngest person in the room. But also, I do want to add that, you know, as being a student who's been in and out of school and like hasn't gone straight through, there's been many times where I'm also the oldest person in the room. And sometimes that can be very uncomfortable. I've had students make references to me, new lingo, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, you're so old, Angel. And I'm like, I'm not that old. But, it's okay. It doesn't matter what your age is. Like, you, again, deserve to be in that room, in that space. And as long as you're always willing to learn and, grow, that's what's important.
Hello, my name is Neha Nair. I'm from Middletown High School, and I have two questions. Oh, sorry, one more time. Okay. Okay. All of you, anytime you speak about like any of your work or research, I've just been like really, really interested. Is there anywhere I can like find out more about things you guys do?
We have a website for my mission. EZIE.jhuapl.edu. And it's got a great outreach program for teachers and students and magnetometers for anybody who likes the Aurora Borealis. It's great.
I also say, if any of you guys have a LinkedIn, you can follow me on LinkedIn at Angel Boardley, last name Boardley. That's a great way to learn what I'm doing. And, I definitely am going to work on trying to post more opportunities for people of my age group for sure.
National Cancer Institute, the Frederick National Labs for Cancer Research have great websites, and they can take you anywhere you want to go.
And there's more about the backgrounds of each of our panelists on the website as well and in the chat. So feel free to check that out.
Hi, I'm Rahana Nigam, and I'm a sophomore in Urbana High School. And I noticed you guys were talking a lot about your internships and opportunities that you guys had. And I'm interested in having and expanding and stuff and getting to get more experience and stuff. But I don't know where to go to get those internships and opportunities exactly. Where would you recommend?
Okay. Yeah, your guidance counselor. High school has some counselors. Unfortunately, the one my kids had, she moved to Linganore, but there are some really awesome resources there for you. And I would start with those guidance counselors. That office is right inside the door when you go in the morning, and don't feel shy about going in there and ask them about it. So for example, National Cancer Institute, when you get to the point you're when you're, I think, a junior, you can apply when you're a junior. We have what's called a Warner H. Kirsten program, and we bring in high school students. They come in for the summer of your junior year in high school. It's a paid job. They pay well. And then you actually spend about half of your senior year, half the day, in our facilities, working in labs or wherever it is that you choose to work, learning more and more and getting your own internship. And oh, right there. That's right. So in my group, I have an intern from Urbana High School in my group, and we've done several over the years. So check that out, especially.
And I would say just briefly, even, if you still need some more help, sometimes contacting like your local community college or a local college nearby, sometimes the resources that they have for their students might also apply to high school students as well. And then also, like I said, the first internship I ever got, I just was cold calling, cold emailing multiple different scientists, telling them what my passions and interests were and what I thought I could get out of their working in their lab to grow myself and my career. And so I got a position that wasn't even necessarily available. So sometimes, being able to just advocate for yourself and also talk about your relevant experiences is important, because let's say you're on the robotics team and you've been, in robotics for many years and you know how to code and you know how to do that. You might be able to find, a local company that needs somebody part-time to help them code and just learn and grow with experiences. So definitely, just look, be open, and you'll find something.
Okay, thank you.
Can I add one more thing? And this is about something I learned about the Frederick County Public Schools. Don't forget that CTC. I don't remember what it stands for. I'm sorry. But that the CTC is just fantastic. And there's so many opportunities that come out of that. And I think it's another opportunity for you to reach out and look at.
Excellent. What an exchange of ideas and perspectives we've had this morning. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for formal questions. Thank you, Tanya, Terri, Becky, and Angel, for your candor, encouragement, and stories of your varied pathways to your success. Your commitment and passion to the fields of science and engineering is a shining example of what's possible for the next generation of women in STEM. So we'll pass this off to Amanda to close us up.
Ladies, a round of applause. Wow, that was really impressive. I learned a lot, and I feel like a lot of the same lessons you can take home with you, like advocate for yourself, ask for what you want. Like, even if it's daunting to be the only woman or the youngest or the oldest in the room, still be yourself, be authentic, and it always serves you well, right? Be yourself, because that's the easiest thing to be, right? Unless you can be Batman. But Well, I appreciate you all so much for taking the time. I know we ran out of time for all of the individual questions, but now that we're wrapped up, the panelists are going to stick around and sort of move around the room. Please find them to chat with them one-on-one. We will be here for a little bit longer. We recorded this event today, so look for an email with the recording and check out different ideas, careers. Our social handles are on a little sheet as you go out the door, but stop at the tables for woman-to-woman mentoring, the Frederick National Laboratory. Check out all the information that we have for you before you head out today. But this is the conclusion of our formal event. Stick around to talk with our panelists, but if you don't have time to do that, we wish you well, safe travels, and we hope to see you again at next year's event. Thank you.